program was met with an outcry from people across the country.
Stop spending!
Were you surprised by that?
I was a bit saddened by it, but I think those are exactly the borrowers that we should be trying to prioritize for help, and it's in our collective interest to keep those houses off the housing market when it makes economic sense to do so.
This plan will require significant resources from the federal government. And yes, probably more than we've already set aside.
And in his February 24th speech to Congress, President Obama told the public the spending was not over yet, even as he tried to bolster confidence.
We will rebuild, we will recover, and the United States of America will emerge stronger than before.
Wall Street didn't seem to be buying it. The next day, the Dow dropped 79 points, and it would continue dropping.
It's a crisis of confidence on Wall Street, Main Street, and on the streets of Europe. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell below 7,000 for the first time since 1997.
Amidst the worsening crisis, the administration was having difficulty hiring the very people it needed to work on the problem. 7 weeks into President Obama's term, almost all top posts in Secretary Geithner's Treasury Department remained unfilled. In the past 2 weeks alone, 3 nominees for senior positions withdrew from consideration. And as of Friday, Geithner was the sole Obama appointee at Treasury confirmed by the Senate. Jared Bernstein is chief economic advisor to Vice President Joe Biden. The market's been down, unemployment's up. The president has said this is the worst crisis since the Great Depression, and his Treasury Department isn't staffed up. Is that a huge problem?
I don't think you can make that case. I mean, the Treasury Department has been performing at an extremely high level. If you look at the housing plan, if you look at the financial stability plan, if you look at the role of Treasury in the Recovery Act, which I can tell you because I was in the meetings, it's deep in the budget, Treasury's been deeply involved. I don't think you're seeing a shortage of good personnel and good ideas at this point.
But in congressional testimony, Paul Volcker, the chair of President Obama's Economic Recovery Advisory Board, called the situation at Treasury shameful.
I know shameful is the word that comes to mind. The Secretary of the Treasury is sitting there without a deputy, without any undersecretaries, with no, so far as I know, with no assistant secretary responsible in substantive areas at a time of obviously very severe crisis. He shouldn't be sitting there alone.
In this administration, is there a lot of agreement about how things are developing policy-wise?
Every morning we have the economic briefing in the Oval Office. One of the things that I've observed in those meetings is that what you don't see in there is one of these non-reality bubbles. This is a president and vice president who insist on hearing it straight.
But does Wall Street think President Obama gets it? On March 3rd, a day after the Dow slipped under 6,800 for the first time in 12 years, President Obama said this about the tanking market.
The stock market is sort of like a tracking pole in politics. It bobs up and down day to day. And if you spend all your time worrying about that, then you're probably going to get the long-term strategy wrong.
In the short term, over the following week, the Dow continued trending lower, hitting 6,547 on March 9th.
My guess is the good advice for any administration is pay lots of attention to the stock market and don't talk about it very much. Because either you're going to be talking the market down or talking the market up.
Since last March and the Bear Stearns bailout, the Dow Jones has dropped almost 42%. Unemployment has risen from 5.1% to 8.1%. And business failures have doubled. It's one of the most severe economic contractions in most Americans' lifetimes. In the past year, 2 administrations have spent or announced plans to spend trillions to stop the downward spiral. Is it working? President Bush, Treasury Secretary Paulson, and Fed Chief Bernanke say yes, that things would have been worse if they had not acted. Democrats believe that as well.
Some things are so big that they can't be handled in the private sector. Government needs to step in.
You had a $345 billion housing bailout last summer, it failed. You had a $700 billion Wall Street bailout last October, it failed. You had a $4 trillion Federal Reserve guarantee in October, it's failed. You had a $787 billion Obama package in February, it's going to fail. And you had a $2 trillion Geithner package, it will fail.
Is the government making this worse?
Yes.
Definitively?
Definitively.
Late this week, President Obama, now riding a 4-day Dow winning streak, reaffirmed that he intends to spend, reluctantly he says, a lot more money, and not just to bail out Wall Street.
The truth is that these problems in the financial market, as acute and urgent as they are only part of what threatens our economy. And we must not use the need to confront them as an excuse to keep ignoring the long-term threats to our prosperity, the cost of our health care and our oil addiction, our education deficit and our fiscal deficit. Now, I'm not choosing to address these additional challenges just because I feel like it or because I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm doing so because they're fundamental to our economic growth.
This story is far from over, but that's all for us, for now.